maybe 7 on here. But you have a 10-foot perimeter landscape strip on the church road frontage. That's section 3705D3 of the Land Development Code, and pay particular note to the pictures, the accompanying pictures that go with those codes. And when you're designing these landscape strips, make sure your landscape engineer knows that those pictures are required the way they are. And what you're looking at there is, it's got the requirements in it. It needs to, we're not looking for even spacing of trees. We're looking for width, depth, full coverage of the required trees and shrubbery in those zones. So keep that in mind with any of these buffer requirements that I go over. Now here's the tough one. There's a 25-foot perimeter landscape strip on US 1, and that's just the picture for that, and the code for that is just one letter down, and that's 3705D1. Everything I just said about the requirements applies, but matching the picture. Now with the 25-foot landscape strip, that gets up into your parking that you've got proposed.
We have an updated site plan, because it looks like we're going to be able to acquire a little bit more property.
Okay.
And alleviate some of these concerns from this first site plan.
Okay, and that's great. We can take a look at this, and a lot of these requirements, I mean, the requirements are still going to be there, so right. I'm just going to keep on going with what I've got prepared right here, and it'll all still be applicable. So you can't have parking in your perimeter landscaping strip, so that's one thing I noticed there. So you got 25 feet on US 1, 10 feet on Church Road. Your parking requirement 31 is in LDC, Land Development Code, section 31.12F1, and all of this is being recorded, so you don't have to take copious notes on all of this. Should have started off with that, so I apologize. The parking requirements, one space for each 300 square feet of gross floor area, plus where applicable, one space for every 1,000 square feet of lot or ground area outside the buildings used for any type of sale or display. On your parking, which are, in the Land Development Code, tree islands at the end of all parking rows are required, no more than 10 spaces without a landscape island. You have a 20-foot landscape buffer required that's adjacent. That's a little bit different than the perimeter landscape strip. That's the buffer for having an intense use versus a less intense use. So 20-foot landscape buffer adjacent to the single-family residence on Church Road. With that might make it a little bit difficult with your driveway, because you're not supposed to have an encroachment in that 25-foot buffer. So you're gonna have to look at that, the way that drive comes into Church Road, because that includes driveways as far as encroachments and buffers.
So
you shouldn't have a driveway going through it.
So what you're saying is we cannot have access off of Church Road?
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Now, yeah, but I mean,
it's going to be hard to get it. It's going to be hard.
It's tough because when you look at it, it takes it right down, right across that property. Yeah, it takes it right across. Maybe a little bit of that apron might be okay, but that's something you could look at. I mean, with me, development services, but I think that's a tough one. And then I don't know what that means with you. Entrances can, that may be something that we need to speak about more offline.
Okay.
With the development services department, but that's
so
my code as I understand it.
Okay, so make sure I understand. What you're suggesting is that we'd be forced potentially to have our access off of US Highway 1.
Yeah, but ultimately, I think development, you may have more to say on that, Caleb.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll talk about access as well from development services standpoint, the engineering side of it. And so I guess I can jump into it real quick, just address that, and then we'll get back to you. So our code does require commercial lots. We have code language that says our commercial lots shall not receive access from local roads unless authorized by a development review committee. And so basically from our standpoint, what we're looking at is condition and the amount of traffic you're going to have on there. And so we would need to look at the condition of Church Drive, number one, determine if there's any kind of improvements that need to be made, and then we'd want to look at the volume of traffic you're going to be putting on that road versus, what's already there, because local roads are mostly intended for residential type traffic, and so we would look at those two things in consideration of that to make a determination. And so that's one of our comments, and we'll be happy to discuss it further, but those are the main things we're gonna wanna look at is traffic and the condition of the road before we
Okay.
make a decision. And so basically, we're making these comments up here, you are gonna have to address, all the comments, and so so we can talk through what that looks like regarding Will's comment related to buffering and how that's addressed as well. So regarding access, we'll probably end up needing to have a follow-up conversation once we get an idea of, we'll have to do an inspection of that road, and then we'll have to get traffic counts or some kind of a general traffic information from you as well.
Okay,
And then, I don't have that much more, just wanted to mention, screening of mechanical equipment in the dumpsters. Your dumpster enclosure needs to be a wall.
CMU block wall,
Yes,
okay,
yep. So, the materials aren't necessarily specified, it says a wall, but, that would be, the most common thing, I would think. I can't imagine what else you would do, so, yeah, I think
so
the
not a
masonry
wooden,
wall
not
would
a
make the most
wooden
sense.
opaque 6 foot tall.
Yes, has to be completely opaque, and then there's also in the landscape code, in Article 37, it has requirements, there's some tree planting requirements around that wall as well.
Okay,
And so, mechanical equipment has to, those have to be on the side, dumpster and mechanical equipment side or rear of the buildings, can't be in front yards. And mechanical equipment can be on the roof and it's visible from the right of way, it need to be screened. These aren't, there's just a lot of issues, I think, right now with the parking and the width of the landscape strips, perimeter landscape strips and buffers that we went over. And, maybe an ingress egress thing to work out, but, these aren't comprehensive comments. There'll be a reviewer that, these are some of the high points. And,
sure.
I think that's all I got.
All right, good morning, Caleb Hurst, Development Services. Already mentioned the commercial access. That's per section 922. Per section 9.3, driveway design, commercial driveways require a minimum of 100-foot spacing from the street corner. And that's measured radius to radius. So if Church Drive access is approved, it is required to have that 100-foot separation radius to radius. Article 10 is our stormwater management section. It does align mostly with St. John's River Water Management District. There is a requirement for the pond top of bank to meet the 100-year storm event. And I also want to note we'll need geotech and engineering calculations to be included with your site engineering plan submittal. Per section 10.6, we do require a stormwater infrastructure maintenance plan. It identifies all the stormwater infrastructure, recommended maintenance, and recommended intervals for those maintenance, for that maintenance, and it needs to be included within your plan set.
Okay,
I see on the updated set that you provided, it does now show a sidewalk on US 1, but per section 11.7, we do require a 6-foot sidewalk along the frontages of the property. So we would need one on US 1 and Church Drive as well. And then we also require, as part of that, a connection into the site. So we need to make sure we have that pedestrian connection from that external sidewalk going into the site as well, connecting to the site. Per BOCC Resolution 2019-174, we do require traffic impact analysis as part of development. The first step in that process will be to coordinate a conference call with our transportation engineer, Andrew Avant. We can provide you his information. As part of that call, we'll look at the trip generation for this project and talk through what intersections need to be analyzed as part of that study. We do have standard general notes and stormwater and paving notes that are required to be included within your engineering plan set.
and where do I find those?
Those are found online. We can follow up with you with a link to those as well.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll send a follow-up email after this meeting with some of this information. That way you have some of these contacts and the
Perfect.
notes that need to be included.
Sounds good.
And then once you get plan approval for your site, we do have construction inspection fees. Those are found online. Review fees are found online as well. And then lastly, section 6.2.1, DRC approval shall be obtained prior to breaking ground. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Van Zandt, Environmental Health. You already know it's gonna be on private well and septic, and that well's gonna need to be a DEP well.
Thankful.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Kevin Jones, Fire Marshal's Office. So under the fire code, NFPA 18.5, you're required to have a hydrant within 400 feet of the structure. As 301, there's no hydrants along this path, so that defaults to NFPA 1142, which is water supply for rural and suburban areas. So in that, you have to provide a pond with a 50-year drought study that holds enough water for the fire flow requirements for that building. The hydrant has to be 100 feet from the building. So wherever the building is going to be at, if that's where it's going to be, 100 feet from that is where the hydrant has to be.
Within
Cannot
100
be
feet.
closer than 100 feet.
Okay.
And that's all I have at this point.
And above-ground tanks are acceptable water source?
No, sir. You can have a above-ground water tank, but it doesn't take the place of a hydrant.
Okay, so
So
how,
it sounds like if you have an above-ground tank, they would still need to have.
we would have a fire department connection?
Correct, because you have to, if you have an above-ground tank, you have to be able to supply that from a well, and normally that's used for to sprinkle the building, but it doesn't take the place of a hydrant itself.
So we need, okay, I haven't run into this, because typically what we do is we provide normally like 30,000 gallons above-ground tank with a fire department connection. And then the tanks get refilled by the well, which also serves the domestic water for the building. And so how do we provide a fire hydrant that has flow to it?
So the hydrant is separate from the tank. The hydrant is totally standalone by itself. 1142 only recognizes a hydrant with a pond. It doesn't recognize a hydrant with a tank. And that's what's recognized with a tank is a sprinkler system if you want to sprinkle the building, but not a hydrant.
Okay, so we would have to then drill a well big enough to supply the 1,500 gallons per minute, whatever is required for fire protection?
Well, this building doesn't require a sprinkler system.
Right.
It just requires access to a hydrant, which would be a pond.
Okay, I'm not sure about the soils conditions here, if we were even have a wet pond or a dry pond, so I don't, Ben, when you did the test pits, were,
Clean sand, very little SC, so it's likely gonna burn.
likely gonna perk really well, so I don't think we would have a pond, that's why we would be providing the 30,000 or so gallons above ground.
So that would be something that you'd have to engineer a pond.
How does, I'm just curious how the pond, if we had a wet pond with a sufficient volume, how is that different than having above-ground tanks with sufficient volume?
Because the fire code recognizes a hydrant, dry hydrant attached to a pond. There's no dry hydrant attached to a tank. Water tanks are used to supply sprinkler buildings. You have a fire pump that applies sprinkler system.
All right, thank you.
Did you have any other questions?
No, ma'am, or,
Just a couple for fire,
If you don't mind, can you come up to the podium so that way it gets recorded?
sorry about that.
No, you're fine. Just want to make sure we can hear you on the record.
Yeah, I'm Bennett Stewart with Terramore Development. Do you guys require like a shunt switch in your Knox box?
No,
You do not?
no.
Okay, that's all I had.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else? All right, with that, we will conclude tab A and move to tab B. The Greenery, Harts Road, is the applicant here? Please come to the podium, introduce yourself, and tell us about your project.
Christina Evans with Gulfstream Design Group. So this is a site for the Greenery, which is a landscaping company. So it has office, plant staging area, employee and public parking. Public parking is going to be paved. The employee parking is going to be some sort of gravel area. And this currently is waiting to have a land use amendment to go from medium density residential to commercial, which will be filed soon. But other than that, any comments?
We'll go around and make comments.
Good morning, Tom Ray with Building Department. So I just have 3 comments. So the first one is about the fuel pumps. We just want to make sure that we meet the 2020 NEC code for all motor fuel dispensing requirements. And I believe that the fire marshal will have more comments on the pumps themselves. Second, make sure that the modular building is rated for commercial use. You've got I think the main building says modular on it. Just make sure that's rated for commercial use. And then the last one, for your employee parking. So accessibility requirement, you'll need that for the employee parking as well. So I don't know if you would need to change the verbiage from saying employee parking to maybe overflow or something of that nature. If you leave it as employee parking, you're going to need to have an accessible employee parking up in either a paved or that asphalt area. And if you did it that way, you may have to put the employee parking only in that one spot. Now, if you create another ADA accessible spot on the other side of where you currently have one, make sure you have an accessible ramp there as well, signage and everything like that. And that's all I have for right now.
Thank you.
Sarah Clifton, Floodplain Administration. As per Nassau County FEMA Firm Panel 351G, the entire parcel is in an X flood zone, so I have no further comment.
Will Ryder, Planning Department. As you mentioned, you've got this needs a future land use map amendment from MBDR to commercial. Zoning's good with commercial intensive, but that one section of the lot, and I think we were pretty far along on starting to process that, and then I think the lot was combined or lot line was removed and sort of changed things up, but I know Elizabeth, the director, is working on that, so I know that's underway, but yes, it is needed, as you've already identified. You'll need a 25-foot high-intensity buffer along Harts Road, along Harts Road frontage, because the right-of-way is less than 60 feet. The requirements for that buffer is 3705, or perimeter landscape strip buffer. Use those terms interchangeably from time to time. 3705D1, and as I mentioned in the previous item, if you heard, just make sure that you look at those pictures and apply similar designs to that strip when your landscape architect is designing that. So 3705D1, and the stormwater pond can't encroach into that buffer. Looks like it does here, so it might be another conversation we need to have or look at moving that somehow or another. 15-foot perimeter landscape strip along US 17. That's one section down from the previous section we talked about with the landscape buffer, section 3705D2. That's an average of 15 feet. Again, refer to the pictures on that. The fence that's over on the on the Harts Road side, that must be on the inside of the 25-foot buffer. Just a reminder about the parking requirement, 31.12F1, one space for each 300 square feet of gross floor area, plus where applicable, one space for every 1,000 square feet of lot or ground area outside the village used for any type of sales or display. I suspect with this use, that latter part of that might heavily apply. And then the issue of all mechanical equipment, mechanical equipment, dumpsters must be screened. Dumpster enclosures must be walls, and have accompanying landscaping, and that can be found in Article 37. And I don't know if Development Services is planning on weighing in on the parking situation as well. I think the building department raised up a good point there with the ADA accessibility, with the parking supposed to be paved. And yeah, with the ADA accessibility, employee parking would need to be paved as well. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning, Caleb Harris Development Services. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Have a few things for you this morning. Per section 9.3, driveway design, commercial driveways require a 30-foot minimum radius. And so the Harts Road radiuses will need to be updated to match that. It also requires 30 foot from the property line. That wasn't shown, but I just wanted to note it's 30-foot minimum from the property line. Per section 9.9, parking spaces require curbing or wheel stops to ensure the vehicles do not come in contact with buildings, landscaping, and other items. And this section also includes parking space dimensions. We do have a code section that does require vehicle use areas to be paved. There is language that would potentially allow for alternate surfaces, low impact design surfaces, so we'd be happy to review that as part of your submittal, as part of the process, or talk through it further. And then Article 10 is our stormwater management section. The pond top of bank is required to meet the 100-year storm event, and geotech and engineering calculations are required to be submitted with your site engineering plan submittal. Per section 10.6, we do require a stormwater infrastructure maintenance plan that identifies all stormwater infrastructure for the site, recommended maintenance needed, and recommended intervals for that maintenance. It needs to be included within your plan set. Per section 11.7, we do require a 6-foot sidewalk along the frontage of the property, as well as a sidewalk connection into the site as well. Per BOCC Resolution 2019-174, we do require traffic impact analysis as part of development. First step in the process is coordinate a conference call. With this site, it may have low traffic volumes. We can talk through that and determine if it's de minimis or not, dependent on the volume of cars coming in and out of the site. But the first step in that process would be to have a conference call with our transportation engineer, Andrew Avant, and we'll discuss that further. We do have standard general notes and stormwater paving notes that are required to be included with your engineering plan submittal. And then once you have approved for your site, we do have construction inspection fees that are listed online. And then lastly, section 6.2.1, DRC approval shall be obtained prior to breaking ground. So before you begin construction, please make sure we get all the correct approvals. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Kathy Van Zandt, Environmental Health. I need to ask, as far as the William Burgess overlay and the septic and the well part,
So,
This is under the exemption.
yeah, this portion of the William Burgess overlay is actually under a pause for its applicability. So that does not affect this. The William Burgess, I can't speak for health and sanitation and the health department, but as far as the zoning code and the William Burgess blueprint, this is a pause area, and that was put into effect by ordinance by the county.
so they can do a private well and private septic is?
I think that's why the moratorium was established, because it was taking longer.
It would need to
for-
be a private well and private septic, which would need to be applied for, so that's all I have.
Good morning, Kevin Jones, Fire Marshal's Office. As I stated in the last submittal, NFPA 1, Chapter 18.5 requires a hydrant within 400 feet of a building. There's not a hydrant on Harts Road or this section of US 17, so you will need to have a pond that has a 50-year drought study and a dry hydrant. Hydrant has to be at least 100 feet from the building itself. The fuel items, I assume that's for the fuel outlet. I assume that's for the equipment that's you have and not for public?
Mhm.
Okay, so those are above ground tanks?
Yes.
Okay, so, that, island will have to meet NFPA 30A, which is the, NFPA standard for motor fuel dispensing. The tanks will either need to be double walled or have some sort, be within some sort of container, just in case they get punctured. There will need to be a bollard to prevent, vehicle damage, hitting the tanks. Naturally, there'll be a hydrant out there, depending on how the fuel is to be dispensed, whether it's manually or, some sort of electrically done, there will need to be a fuel cutoff out there. But ideally, once, you get into that design, more into that design criteria, I can, look and see what other parts of NFPA 38 will apply.
Okay.
And that's how I have it this time.
Thank you.
Did you have any questions?
Nope, not at this time.
Thank you. Good to see you.
You too.
Okay, with that, we will conclude tab B and go to tab C, our approval. SP 25-050, self-storage Yulee modification. Does anyone have any comments?
Building department has no further comments.
Floodplain administration, no comments.
The planning department has no further comment.
Development Services has no further comments.
Environmental health, no further comments.
Fire Marshal's office has no further comments on tab C.
And with that, we will conclude today's meeting.